Hello, grown Black folks talk. Um, some distinctive Black women and the difference between acceptance of the grief we are going through with our brothers and the loss of community, as contrasted with divested and indifferent. Those are not the same. And sometimes we need to just step back from all the topics of the day and just set down some distinctive so we kind of know what we are. I have a comment from PH Diva 1939, who's a new subscriber. Welcome aboard. Um, Her first impression with me was as a Christian divested-minded Black woman. And also Train Pack Baby, who was discussing, turning away from some of the angry commentary that Black women are putting that is actually not going anywhere. Uh, and then realized she said, am I reaching the stage of divestment and indifference? And Train Pack Baby has been with me a long time, and I thank you for staying, just like I welcome you aboard, PH Diva 1939. There, again, distinctives. Acceptance is the fifth stage of grief. And we've been talking about this in terms of a loss occurs that we cannot control. We go through ego struggles in denial. We're not accepting the reality. We're angry about it and trying to use that energy to change it. We're bargaining because we realize the reality is there and maybe we can make a deal. We go into depression when we realize we cannot change it and we are powerless. The ego has to go through the whole process of defeat. And a lot of times we talked about how Black women are spiraling up and spiraling up instead of recognizing that the whole American dream / Black love that we have been sold is a lie and there's nothing we can do about it. And that the idea that Black men are going to be natural leaders when and I'm talking about the mass. I'm not talking about every single one, because I know 4.5 generations of good Black men, and 3 of those generations are good leaders. I know individuals, but as a mass, the behavior has been pretty consistent. And if you think about it, the behavior has been consistent for a long time, because when Black women began to arrive in mass, Black men had already been broken as slaves for 180 years. That's a terrible reality, but it is a reality. And all of us, unless we look at our conditioning, are not going to break it, because certain things we learn how to do our place in the world from our parents. So if Black men are contented being used as studs and having no responsibility toward Black women, but to breed children so the masters can have more slaves. And if Black men never confront that reality, that is how this society will push them, then that's just going to be where they are. And again, not all, but you look at everybody wants to talk about single mothers. Well, if they're single mothers, the fathers did not stay and do what they were supposed to do. And that's a long pattern, because again, Black people being sold back and forth. But the difference between Black men and Black women is we have the children. We have a connection with those children, and we have to make it work. This is why it only took 65 years from Black women arriving in mass to us being able to get up out of slavery. I will say it again. There was not a Harriet Tubman. There was not an Adam B. Wells. It took Black women to provide an awful lot of the background of a lot of the things we've enjoyed, and that history has been hidden from us. But as you discover it, you find out Black women were working harder sometimes to protect Black men than the reverse. I'll give you an easy example for this. We honor and respect the 180,000 United States colored troops that fought in the Civil War. And go ahead and put that many men in the Navy if you want. That's fine. I don't have the number on that in front of me. Okay. Make it 360,000. Make it 400,000 if it looks better to you. Do you know how many Black men there were in the country about that time? And then when you figure that out, then you ask yourself, now, okay, some of them were too old, granted, they were past that age, I get it. But if there were only 360,000 men in the Army and Navy, and we're about 400,000, and we're being very generous, where are the rest? Some of them were in slavery. Okay, we'll take them out. Okay, that number is mighty low, given the stakes at hand. And again, that's something Black men did for themselves, not specifically for Black women. It is what it is. It is what it is. Now, again, we do have cases like the Deacons of Defense, a little known. A black man saw in Bogalusa, Louisiana, saw his daughter, something happened to his daughter. He's like, oh, y'all thought y'all gonna do that? I got friends who are in the army who know what the army surplus is. We're not gonna do this. There are exceptions to every rule. My father, grandfathers, exceptions to the rule. They stand out. My pastor is an exception. Many of the men of our church down into their 30s are exceptions to the rule. And they are wonderful men, which gets to my next point of why I'm not divested, but accepting the reality that what we see is what we see. Tommy Sotomayor spent 20 years devaluing black women for the internet. He was picked up on, the Kevin Samuels and the rest picked up the ball 20 years later. This a whole industry went on to teach a whole generation of black men not to value us. This is a reality. Now we done got to the point that the children of that generation are now talking about it would be better for us to remove all black women and just start over. With what? Before black women came to this country, did I not mention that black men were turned into the ground 180 times? So if you're by yourself, what you gonna do again? Y'all go check that out. From 1619 to 1800. Y'all go check that out. Acceptance that many black men are not doing the work necessary to become the protectors and providers and admired and respected men that they want to be. They want to be assigned the position without doing what they need to do to get the position. And black women at this point are saying no to that. However, I'm not divested because there's no need for me to be divested because there are black men of multiple generations in my world who are worthy of admiration and respect. It is my honor to work with them on a regular basis to look out for the elders, the truly elders who need our help, and the youngers who need our help to get started in an increasingly difficult world. And this is a big part of my life, a big part of my life. I have no need to divest. The other reason I have no need to divest is because my neighborhood and all the men who were selling drugs and crack and getting drunk and acting a fool, they were divested from me in San Francisco. See, that was a plan since 1947. But since nobody wanted to pull out anything and read anything in time, my father stood up for the foolery and preserved his family and his family's wealth, such as it is. You ain't going to San Francisco, you're doing all right, but such as it is. My grandfather got told by aldermen, oh, you're not going to be able to buy a house in San Francisco. My grandfather did not listen to them and stood up for his family and began his family's wealth, such as it is. They stand out because of that. Because other people were in their ears advising foolery. My father said, everything I know about being a man, I learned from the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, my other grandfather worked 3 jobs, accepted the changing of his name to keep his family fed. It is not Noble Eugene Matthews, born Mathis' fault that he was not there to be able to model things for his son. So let me just say that immediately. But that means, and most of his uncles work in the same way, so we're not going to take that from them either. But that means that when dad got older and had black male peers, none of their fathers, none of their grandfathers. My dad talks a great deal about his great grandfather, who was another couple of his great grandfathers were men who were not for the foolery. One of them great grandfathers on his mother's side, shoot, they had been back there with not foolery. But if my dad had to learn everything about being a man from the Lord Jesus Christ, that means that as early as my father coming of age in the 1960s, black male culture was bankrupt. And you know how else we know that? We know that because why? Because most of these men went to the military. A lot of these men who are these great community service today, even at great ages, their service continues. But inside their own community, not so much. Again, always going to be exceptions to the rule because not all the men I know today, because we're now a volunteer army, are military service, but they have had these men to my dad, my pastor, and some others to model on. So they are men who are doing what they need to do to be providers and protectors to their family and community. They have my admiration and my respect. And if I met a black man that fit in there who was interested in marrying me, and who was God's choice for me, I would have no problem with that. I am not divested. I am, however, accepting the likelihood of that being very low. And that since I live in an international city, I better get ready for all my options. God has people out of every tribe and nation. I have accepted that I am not going to get my childhood dream of a man in the image of my father, physically perhaps, but the Lord is perfectly able to send along a man of any color he chooses in my father's spiritual image, and that will be more than good enough. Acceptance. I'm done grieving about the fact that it is unlikely. Not impossible, because God can do anything. But I accept the state that men, my peers, and younger are in. I accept it for what it is. I'm not divested because I still love Black people. I love the community that I'm in, and I care about Black people nationally and globally. I will never be divested. I was not called to be divested. But without being divested, I accept the reality. There are plenty of Black women, online and off, who are married to different races of men and did not stop caring about their community. And the price for that other man to be in her life was to understand we are going to use our resources to do the right thing toward Black people. That actually does happen. Indifferent? Obviously, no. It does not please me to meet Black men in despair at any time. Not uncommon in San Francisco. Everybody's father and grandfather was not as successful as mine. That doesn't make me better than anyone else, but it means that the Black women who are the heirs of that can live a higher standard of living than every Black man whose father wasn't. And it hits different for a man to look at what your grandfather owned and to know that not only do you not have it, but you can't get back. Can't get back. San Francisco's politics and San Francisco's job set is not welcoming. Can a Black man do it? Of course. But the process of taking the full responsibility of what is necessary and putting the time in and not being able to be coddled and fawned over and admired the way that these men feel they need in the meantime is a high hurdle. So they wander the streets of San Francisco looking at what was and resenting who still gets to enjoy it. This is not uncommon here. It's sad, but it's not uncommon. I meet men going down the street cussing out God and everybody who they hate, and the only person listening to them consistently is them, basically cussing themselves out all the way down the street, looking at all the beautiful things that used to be owned by Black men that are no longer owned anymore. Even when you come to San Francisco to go up on the hill, Alamo Square, the famous houses in San Francisco, did you know that each of those was built by a Black man to please his wife, and that's why they're all just a little bit different? But all that was gentrified out of existence. I spent many years struggling with survivor's guilt because of what happened to the children that I grew up with. Their fathers and their grandfathers were not able to do for them what my father and grandfather were able to do. So they suffered and I watched. It does not please me, nor am I indifferent to what has happened to my own generation. But if I wanted to, having reached acceptance, divestment and indifference could be a choice. It's not what I'm choosing right now. But this is the issue. Once you have accepted the reality, you get to choose what you want to do with it. Once you have stopped spiraling, which does not work, it does not matter how much I want to be in denial about San Francisco's situation and Black men's situation as a mass. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Does not matter how indifferent I am to the fact that a third of black men are felons. Does not matter how indifferent I am to the fact that uh, a lot of black men have spent a lot of time online diminishing black women, proposing genocide of black women, supporting men that do that, supporting men who murder black women. I, I can be, it doesn't matter how angry I am about it. It is. There's nothing to bargain with. You cannot bargain with a Hitlerian for your life if you are in the group of people that he wants dead. It's not possible to do that. It serves no purpose to remain depressed, although, granted, there's great sadness about it. I cannot deny, be angry, or bargain my community back into existence. It is gone. The young people I grew up scattered to the four winds with their mothers, when their mothers did not choose to go along with the foolery and end up in jail also. Gone. There is nothing I can do about that fact. Does it still make me sad? Yes. Did that gentleman by the side of the hill whose moves I could predict? Yes. Seen it. Been there, done that. You lose a community, that's what happens to the men that lost it. Is that every black man I saw today? No. Some have adapted and survived, of course. But when you reach acceptance that it is what it is, that yes, there are black men out there advocating killing every single one of us. Atagon Forrest. There are black women, there are black men out there that are advocating killing all black single women. Mother Anton Daniels. We have Hitlerians on the loose. This is a real thing. Can't change it. I can accept it and make moves based on that. I am not choosing divestment. I still love my people. Man, woman, child. And there are black men worthy of my admiration and respect who do not require me to divest from them in order to be saved. I don't have to do that. Not yet. Thank God. I could work toward indifference, but because I am still in ministry, that choice doesn't fit me. But black women, if you want to, you do have the right to both. You have to determine to what are you called and who is calling you. I know who called me. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. So God was not indifferent to the world of humanity, even though the world of humanity rebelled against him. He gave his only begotten son, the best that he had. That whosoever believed in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Is it possible that people will perish? Is God going to be worried about that in all eternity? No. But he's not indifferent, and he's not divested. So since the God I worship is neither indifferent nor divested, neither am I. He chose me, Christ, he chose me in Christ, and I have chosen to respond and live up to that. So even though I have accepted the situation, divestment and indifference are not part of my choices at this time. Choosing to live joyfully is part of my choices. I'm going to be joyful in spite of foolery. I don't care what anybody thinks about that. Come disrespectfully over here, you're just gonna be removed and blocked from ever speaking again. And one little slide comment. First and last entry here. People who make good comments get mentioned in honor. So if you want respect and honor, come correct. I'll treat you well. Promise. It would be easier if I could be indifferent. As I'm telling y'all, I have some crypto journey material that I'm preparing. I'm on my fifth book, like I need to write a fifth book. But I could pack my crypto bags and just be quiet about it and just be counting my money in 2025 and not have told anybody about it if I were indifferent. If I were divested, I wouldn't care if any of you got any money either. Because here's the thing: if you're really gonna divest, you also gonna divest from a whole lot of black men, black women too, who are lost in sauce. A whole lot of women are lost in sauce too. I'm neither. I don't have to make content about the issues that I make content about. Sometimes the grief of mine to even think about the stuff I have to think about to make this content. It did not make me happy to deal with Kojo and the terrorists. Oh, well, the terrorists are with it. I forget Kojo's last name. I don't want to always discuss the stuff. I don't want to have come and talk to y'all about the Bohemian Club and understanding now why the country's so messed up because I got the data. Getting ready for these kind of topics doesn't please me. But I'm not divested or indifferent to the fact that you need to know these things like I need to know these things so you can make good decisions and protect yourself. I accept the mess that we're in. I'm not divested nor am I indifferent. So I therefore have obligated myself to provide lifelines to get out. In the description, whether you are a man or a woman, you will find positive channels for you to watch so that you may look at your own image behaving rightly and behaving powerfully. You do not have to continue to feed on and exhibit foolery. There'll also be therapy resources and journaling resources in the description also. So that you can get through all 5 stages of grief and move toward acceptance. And from acceptance, you can choose to be divested and indifferent or not be divested and indifferent. But both of those can be things that are not you spiraling back and forth into ego struggles against what is, but choosing how you are going to operate in a healthy way with what is and within what is, and setting boundaries so that you are not constantly taken advantage of and damaged, and that you are able then to deal with the behavior of other people who are still spiraling. I don't cover all topics here for that reason. We could be angry every day. Boundaries. We're not doing that over here. We're not coming disrespectful and messy over here either. We're not doing that over here. Boundaries and consequences. You will not be here long with the foolery, and I choose not to bring the foolery over here. My boundary to myself is keep the foolery to a minimum, because if the channel gets all out of pocket, that's my fault. That's my consequences. If I just wanted money, I could do this in a different way. If I just wanted subscribers, but I'm not indifferent and I'm not divested from y'all. Y'all have a good day now. Thank you for listening. And again, shout out to my new subscribers and thank you for my longtime subscribers for staying on the ride. Goodbye.